And so last thing I want to talk about, why do people get married? Okay, and so in the US and Western cultures more generally, we tend to think that marriage is for love. You marry because you love someone, or because you're soulmates, or because you're meant to be together. This is not really the case historically, and not necessarily the case around the world. So in a lot of places, marriage is about creating economic and political alliances between families. Remember when we mentioned that clans are generally exogamous, meaning they're marrying outside of your clan to create these political and economic ties between the two clans. And so marriage is, in a lot of places and for a lot of reasons, for this purpose, for creating these economic and political ties between families. And so in these cultures, marrying for love or sexual attraction would be very risky, or would seem very risky, and would seem kind of unnatural or unnecessary. And I want to stress that this doesn't mean that people in those cultures don't experience love, or don't yearn for love, or don't have the same relationships that we do in the US. They have an equal capacity to love. It's just that the emphasis on marriage might not be for love. It might be to create economic and political alliances. Okay, and also marriage in all cultures is creating formally recognized ties between these two people. And like we said, that results in legitimate children who are then eligible to maintain the wealth of that family. There are some situations where marriage isn't necessarily an option. And here in the US, we're starting to see a very big shift in that, right? So we're starting to see more of an acceptance legally and socially of same-sex marriages. But there are some places where that isn't an option, where you can't be married as a same-sex couple. And so they're kind of missing not only on the economic benefits of marriage and the political benefits of marriage, but also on just being able to formalize their relationship in that same way. And so that's where you see commitment ceremonies kind of serving that same function, and serving as a way to formally recognize the relationship. Trends worldwide in marriage are shifting toward two partners of any gender, as opposed to polygamy, which is plural marriage. So polygamy is any type of marriage with more than two people. And it used to be far more common around the world than it is today. And like I said, we're starting to see this shift towards just two partners instead of polygamy. But there are multiple types of polygamy, and people often get these confused, and it's very easy to. So just make sure you get these put together correctly. Polygamy, overarching category, any plural marriage. Then you can have marriages where you have a man and multiple women, or you can have a woman and multiple men. And so polygyny is a man who is simultaneously married to more than one woman. Okay, and so this can serve a lot of different purposes, but the example we have here for you is it indicates a very important man with a lot of wealth, high social status, a lot of importance in the community. And then polyandry is a woman who has two or more husbands at one time. It's a lot more rare, and in most cases it's called fraternal polyandry, and this is where you have two couples and maybe a wife dies, or there's a single brother, and so the woman will marry all of the brothers in order to keep the large estate or all of the property together, instead of having it split off into a lot of smaller chunks. So she marries everyone so it all stays within one family unit, as opposed to breaking apart. Okay, so just make sure you get polygyny is a man with multiple women, and polyandry is a woman who is married to multiple men. And just like other aspects of society, each culture has its own specific rules about marriage. And so sometimes the rules are related to socioeconomic trends, religious status, education or ethnic background, and so you're choosing partners from within those categories that match your own or are intentionally different from your own. And then there is an incest taboo that is pretty much a cultural universal. And this is a prohibition on sexual relations between close family members. And there have only been a couple exceptions to that, those being ancient Egypt and Hawaii, where rulers were required to marry a sibling to keep the bloodline pure, to keep everything together in one family unit, as opposed to introducing other families through marriage or creation of offspring. Okay. And so some cultures will actually prohibit marriage between cousins, or at least specific types of cousins. So I think in the U.S. you can actually marry like your second or third cousin, but not your first cousin. In some cultures, it's no cousins at all. There's prohibitions against that. So there are a lot of different rules, and sometimes it comes from different interpretations of your cousins. So if you'll refer back to those kinship charts, there are some cultures where they have type 1 cousins and type 2 cousins, and so there's a differentiation there between if marriage is allowed or marriage is not allowed.